Joseph Stalin is one of the most well-known leaders in modern history, although mostly for all the wrong reasons. Despite being nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes following the Second World War, Stalin is now remembered for the horrid acts he sponsored and enabled within his USSR, and it leaves many wondering how such a cruel man ever rose to power to begin with. Well, first, let's take a look at Joseph Stalin's early life and how he even became interested in the political world. Stalin was born in 1878 in the Caucasian country of Georgia, which was at that point a part of the Russian Empire. His family was not wealthy by any stretch, and his father was a shoemaker, while his mother was a simple laundress. Unfortunately for Stalin, his father was also a violent alcoholic and known to abuse his only child on a regular basis. And, in another streak of bad luck, young Joseph contracted the smallpox disease at age 7, which left him with permanent scarring on his face, in addition to a permanently deformed arm that he would be cursed with following a carriage accident, according to most versions of the story. This made the young Georgian a victim of childhood bullying, and would lead to some serious self-consciousness later in life that pushed him as far as requiring photos of himself to be altered like a historic type of Facetune. Anyway, once in his teens, Joseph took up a scholarship at a seminary in the capital where he was set to study to become a priest in the Georgian Orthodox Church. But it appears that the rowdy boy spent more time studying the works of Karl Marx instead of Christianity. This eventually led to his departure from the school, which was said to have been due to missed exams, but according to Stalin himself, was because of Marxist propaganda. In response, Stalin then joined the growing Marxist political movement and began organizing strikes and protests as a political agitator. He was quickly forced to continue this mission underground as the Tsarist regime began to catch on to his identity, but continue he did. Eventually joining the Bolsheviks, Stalin was deeply involved in criminal activities throughout the Russian revolutionary movement, and his relevance within the party grew rapidly. Around this time, Joseph married his first wife, who bore his first son, and the family temporarily fled to Baku, after which point his bride perished from typhus, and the devastated revolutionary decided to leave his young son with his in-laws so he could return to his political duties. Eventually, Stalin was arrested and exiled to Siberia numerous times, leading up to the outbreak of World War I. Nonetheless, the Georgian was making a name for himself in the Bolshevik party still, and Vladimir Lenin, the infamous revolutionary leader, appointed Joseph Stalin to the party's central committee while in exile. As Stalin's power grew, so did that of the Bolsheviks, and when the Tsarist regime collapsed in 1917, Lenin led his party to victory in the Russian Civil War. In October, the Bolsheviks toppled the provisional government and officially declared the founding of the Soviet Union, with Stalin having forged an even greater reputation for himself as a central figure in the Civil War. There was another pivotal figure in the war, though, a man by the name of Leon Trotsky, who many feel should have been the one to end up in the position that Stalin would soon take. This is where things get a bit tricky. When Lenin and the Bolsheviks came to power, Stalin was appointed as the general secretary despite growing distrust between Lenin and his protege due to the latter's harsh methods of consolidation that had been on full display during the recent rise to power. Nonetheless, the people seemed to love and relate to Stalin, and this made him immensely popular. When Lenin fell ill after suffering from a stroke, Joseph Stalin leapt at the opportunity and cut his souring mentor off from political affairs while he was away in recovery. As their relationship decayed even more, Lenin gave a warning to the party. Give Stalin the boot, now. In an unlucky twist for Lenin, though, this warning was written in his testament, which would not be published before he suffered a heart attack and eventually another fatal stroke. Although the testament did make its way to Stalin nevertheless, the Georgian and his allies managed to completely suppress all word of Lenin's caution, and the party remained loyal to Joseph. Additionally, Stalin was Lenin's next in line, which made him the new head of the party, not Trotsky. There were still 2 other party members whom Stalin and Trotsky were forced to share de facto power with, though. These men were quickly pushed out by Stalin after he publicly denounced them for trying to conspire with him against Trotsky in 1925. Next, Trotsky was taken care of through the ideological rivalry he and Stalin shared. As Stalin was the more popular of the 2, it was easy for him to convince others that Trotsky was in the wrong and even attempting to divide the party. It also helped that Trotsky was Jewish, which wasn't something that sat well with many Russians. Thanks to this competition and anti-Semitism, Stalin managed to swiftly position himself above Trotsky and eventually sent him into exile in the late 1920s. Now, Stalin had become the one and only true ruler of the Soviet Union. He would soon bring about a reign of terror and despair, but for the time being, and even sometimes throughout, the dictator managed to remain a popular figure through his strategic rise to and execution of power.